what is the classification manager? Where can I get it from? It's obviously quite an important one. How does it work? Which is even more important. And ways to customize it. I think we're kind of missing a few here. I think those are in the beer garden. Okay, so BIM, what do we need to deliver? Well, if you've seen a lot of the literature, the whole idea, the 8 pillars of BIM, these standard documents that rule the industry, or standard tools, classification is one of them. It kind of sits right on the end. I like to think of it as a cornerstone, and just as important as the rest of the others. So this actually kind of referring to various different kinds of classification, but object classification. So if you select something within your model or within Glue or Navisworks, your IFC, you can see a particular classification that might be particular to your project. There's lots of classification systems out there. Various projects will use their own. Uniclass 1.4, Uniclass 2015, if you're unfortunate enough to use Uniclass 2. And then there's also things like NRM as well. So there's a host of different classification systems, and it's basically the issue is how do you kind of manage all these different types, and what's the most efficient way to get your users classifying things within your models. Obviously, one of the reasons why are we doing this? So you can use them in class. Once you've got everything classified within your model, you might not necessarily want to use categories from Revit. You might want to look at within clash detection software or validation software. You can itemize or select elements within your models based on the classification itself, rather than kind of the Revit categories. And obviously, if you're looking at interoperability, you have lots of people from different pieces of software. The classification is what brings them all together, because you might not have, if you're bringing models from Tekla or ArchiCAD, then those won't use Revit categories. So you have to discount that, and you need to look at a common system. Costing, so your cost managers, their systems that they will use, because of the same reasons as I just stated, they will use the classifications to break down their models, break down your models, and extract the quantities based on that. And as the image demonstrates very clearly, one of the cornerstones of COBie is everything is in there is categorized. So what is the classification manager? Well, it's a Revit add-on. It organizes and assigns classification data across multiple models if necessary, multiple models, and also it can assign classifications at various different levels, at context level, the facility, space and room levels, and also at elemental level as well. So where can you get it from? Well, thankfully, the costs of software these days are only going up, but this one is a free plugin. You can find it at biminteroperabilitytools.com, which is an Autodesk website. This tool itself isn't actually developed by Autodesk. It's developed by an American platinum partner, CAD Micro Systems, I believe they're called. So there's kind of some confusion across the branding and the supports and bits and pieces like that. But essentially, if you go to this website, you'll see these 4 tools. The model checker. The model checker has been greatly enhanced with the introduction of the model checker configurator. There's the COBie extension, and what I'm talking about today, the classification manager. So live demo. What can go wrong normally does go wrong. Okay, so I've got a kind of a basic model here, which is actually the standard kind of COBie model that's available on the internet. Hopefully, it's not taking long to load. It's not that big of a model. The add-in itself is located on the add-ins tab. It's under Classification Manager. I do recommend, if you're going to use Classification Manager, also install the COBie extensions, because especially if COBie is a requirement on your project, because the two can sit hand in hand. Irrelevant of whether you intend to use, whether you intend to export from directly to COBie using the COBie extensions. Use the COBie extensions just to populate the parameters within your model. So initially, what you have to do when you install it, you have to go through an initial setup. Oh dear. Joy. Okay, so this is the initial screen that you see when you click on Setup. And you have a choice of which classification systems you want to use. So just for this example to start off with, you can see that we have a US one, which majority of people in here will be irrelevant. That's based on you have your master format, your Omni format, and Omni class. And then the UK one that's in here, this is Uniclass 2015. So this is one I'm going to demonstrate. So you click Finish, and then what this does is it adds a series of shared parameters to your file, and those are specific for the classification moving forwards. And you see down here some of the ones I'd already added, but the 2015 ones are located at the bottom. So you've got Uniclass systems and also the product codes. So how does it work? Well, you select the elements, and you only have to select one element of a particular type because it's doing it at type level. And then you go to your add-ins tab, go to Assign Classification. And then if you've selected an element, it will automatically highlight elements at the top. As I said previously, it can do contact, facility, space, and elements. So within here, it'll show you your table, and you have filters on the right-hand side depending on the particular elements. So you can set that to any, and then you can see the full Uniclass 2015 table. And you can pick the particular classification that's appropriate for that element. So I'm just going to pick any old thing, steel frame walls. And then at the bottom here you have a series of options. It's really quite easy and straightforward to use this tool. Whether you want to apply it to all elements, apply all, I'll explain that in a second. Whether you want to apply COBie parameters at the same time, and whether you only want it to apply to fields that are currently blank, so you don't want to overwrite existing ones. So you click Finish, and that will input the parameter within here. Pretty straightforward. If we go back and you want to assign a different parameter to the same thing, then you uncheck blank only, and then you can override the parameter and you can push another one through. If you use apply all, let's see, I might have to go back and change the setup of this to the US. What this allows you to do, if you have it set up correctly, let's go back to this, assign classifications. It allows you to push out multiple classifications at the same time for a particular element. So, and you can set up this mapping yourself, customization. So if you're using NRM and you're also using Uniclass 1.4 or Uniclass 2015, you can set up the mapping between the two, so you can actually save time by map to NRM at the same time that you're mapping to Uniclass. the issue there is trying to find the relationships between like your product table and the NRM. It's unlikely that you'll be able to do that. The product table goes into far too much detail compared with NRM. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. Okay, so hopefully, let's just see if I can pick something. External walls. Apply all, click finish, and then if I go into my edit type, you can see now what it's actually done is it's applied the uni format, and it's also applied the omni format classifications at the same time, so you can kind of double up on your classifications. If you check the COBie box as well, where we have COBie type and category, it will also assign the parameter to that as well. So if I just test that on this and then check that box, here you can see COBie type, it's inputted it in there as well. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 here, that you're also getting the COBie data filled in as well. So depending on how you're managing your COBie, that may or may not be something that's useful to you. You can set up custom mapping within the COBie extensions to read from other parameters rather than specific COBie ones. So that's essentially how it works. Now, how do you do additional levels of customization to it? Well, if you want to add...
That wasn't me.
Is there some football on tonight? Something I'm missing? Yeah, right, out. Okay, so if you want to do additional levels of classification, you can, if you go into your C drive into program files, it's 32-bit, so let's see, just navigate very quickly. Program files, the 32-bit, which is the one that says x86, Autodesk, and then Classification Manager 2016. This is all the stuff that makes it run. So you have the tables here. So let's just open up the UK one's a really bad example, so I'll just close that one. The US one. Okay, so I appreciate some of this is just cropped off the side, so I'll just do this. So start at the beginning, you get instructions about how it all works. Note these codes down here for the Revit elements. And then you have your different classification systems across the bottom. If I click on this, you have the system down here in a format. So it's basically a tiered format, so you've got levels 2, 3, 4, 5, and that kind of staggers it in the tree that we saw earlier on. The next option here is Revit categories. So when you select a wall, for example, if you want that one to automatically appear, then you can assign a Revit category, which is based on this list here. And then you can create, or you can set up your own custom mapping then across these different additional columns that you can create. So by entering the value of the corresponding code or classification for that particular element, it will find that, and then it will also input that information as well if you have that applied all button checked. So that's pretty much it. You can. It's a really useful tool, and because it's very visual, it saves you having to have an Excel file or another database somewhere else. It's very much inside. Oh, sorry, one last thing. So what I would recommend is obviously you want to know kind of how you want to know your progress about how well you're doing as you're progressing with this. And the project browser is hidden. So what I've done is, in this particular instance, I set up a particular view. I've called it Uniclass classification, and then under filters, I set this up for Uniclass Table G because that was one I was going to demo, but I can pick it for another one. uniformat, and then does not equal blank. Click OK. And then essentially this is a step-by-step process. If you have this 3D view open, and the beauty of this is if you're doing COBie, for example, and you only have a particular list of manageable, maintainable assets that your client requires, you can use your visibility and graphics to hide certain elements that don't interest you. So essentially you're almost filtering the list, so you're taking it right down to only the elements that you are interested in. So if it was walls, for example, the rest of them will be invisible, and then those are the walls, and those are the ones that you need to classify. And once you just basically you select these, classify them, uniformat, and once it's been classified, it disappears. So essentially, this is really good QA check for you. So if you have a blank, if you have nothing in your 3D view, then you know that everything's classified. I'm not saying that everything's classified correctly, but it's classified nonetheless.